Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Out of Spec podcast. I'm your host, Francie, and you join me again in this wee corner of the internet, nerding out about electric vehicle charging. If that sounds like it's up your alley, then please pull up, plug in, and get ready to learn. Today, I am lucky enough to be joined again by Ashley Edwards, EVSE Technical Sales Manager, and Jed Routh, Director of Markets at Kempower. Welcome back to the virtual studio.
Thank you.
Thanks, Francie.
Of course. Now, we spoke before, and you all walked me through the product line offerings from Kempower, which is great. And check that episode out, y'all, if you haven't already, on the Out of Spec podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, or on our YouTube channel, wherever you're finding us. And now I want to talk about Scalability. We're expecting to see many millions more EVs on the road in the US by 2030, 2040. Automakers galore have announced their plans to go fully electric or 80% electric, offering only or mostly EVs by a certain year. And of course, that means we're scaling up public EV charging infrastructure. And how are we going to do it? Well, that's why I have you two on today to fill us in. And so maybe we can start with this. In terms of scalability, how does Kempower's product line adapt to the growing demands of the EV charging market? I know that this is a worry for lots of people. How are we going to meet it? How are we going to scale? What are you all doing?
Well, I mean, scalability for Kempower is really at the heart of what we do, which it's great for us in the sense that understanding the market. There's really some undefined, undetermined things about, how large a charging site may need to be. We need utilization information oftentimes before we can really throw the dart to the bullseye and really, pinpoint exactly what that need may be into the future, And so what's really great about Kempower's products, even looking at our kind of gateway product, if you will, with the movable charger, it's a 50 kilowatt movable charger that still requires a AC 480 outlet, or AC supply. However, it is on wheels and it's movable, and you can bring this in and out depending on your location and your needs. And so you may be a car rental spot with some lots fleet vehicles and that sort of thing that you're renting, but you lease a building, but it's way easier for you to put in some minimal infrastructure like that 480 supply, and plug something in rather than to install a whole charging unit, perhaps even indoors in some instances. So we have a really great entry product for those shoppers who are planning for the future but maybe don't exactly know where to start. It's a really great solution that can charge up to 2 vehicles simultaneously, and really provide some fast charging infrastructure for you if you have nothing else. When we look at our other products from there, our power unit itself, which is over my shoulder here, it's kind of a cabinet design with a rackable power unit and modular units inside of it. So, for instance, you could have a single door cabinet that's only populated at 50 kilowatts. But also have some room to grow inside of that cabinet and add more power modules in the future. So there definitely is some, engineering work that would need to be done. Your AC supply to that cabinet should be sized for what you want into the future. So that can be sometimes a challenge. But once you have that power ready and available to you, you can decide to grow with more power within that cabinet and also add outputs or charging ports to that same cabinet as well as you continue to grow your power needs and your utilization needs as well. So scalability is something that's kind of inherently built into Kempower's products. The modular aspect of the components inside of it makes it, extremely easy and a very streamlined process of adding more power to it. Another kind of great thing, which I know you didn't ask about service, but it makes it extremely serviceable as well. And so oftentimes it only requires a technician to service our units because of the modularity aspect of it. And so if you travel to a site, you have basically, 3 components in your van. For the most part, those will fix 90% of any challenges that or issues that may be in that charger. So the scalability and modular aspect not only addresses the scalability, but also the serviceability of our products.
Definitely. And I think it's important, the use cases there too of EV charging. It's not the same circumstances across the board. So to be able to provide different solutions is important for scaling for all the different needs. And then, yes, of course, the modularity is important, not only when you're trying to future-proof something that has been, I wouldn't say unpredictable, but we have had to work to predict it for sure, but also the serviceability of it and the repairability, because we work to not have issues come up, but when they do, the most effective way to fix them in a short amount of time and in a really accessible way as well, I think is really important. And scalability,
Yes.
I like that that's a pillar of it. Yeah, go ahead, Jed.
It's just been, I think, the same thing. An interesting little side story about that is what's going on with a lot of commercial fleets. A lot of those guys have had plans to, let's just use 10. We're going to have 10 trucks this year. And then they found out that maybe there's an issue with the utility connection, and they weren't going to be ready for 2 more years. They're in a place with, not a great grid connection. And so what we can do 2 different things for those guys. A lot of those guys, like Ashley said, can just, get a movable and get started. And maybe that's in a place where your permanent, charging solution is not going to be. But at least that gets you started with 1 or 2 vehicles, and your technicians learn, and you get that started. Or maybe you buy the cabinet, like Ashley said, and you put 1 power module in there, and you get everything ready. So now when I come back, I don't have to trench anymore. I've got all the stub outs for my satellites ready to go. And next year, when the grid connection comes on, I can buy 10 trucks. It's just an issue of not heavy construction anymore. I'm adding some power modules to the cabinet. I'm putting some satellites in, but I haven't had to pull 2 different permits and do those kinds of things. So I think our system's really inherently scalable and can do some little nice situations like that.
Yeah, I know the kind of horror stories of waiting for a utility to hook up, or, thinking that you have it all figured out, and then you need whatever kind of permitting, and how it can not only be like a ton of work and a ton of time and resource investment, but also that it can really make the timeline from getting a charger in the ground and up and running go a long way. So with those, kind of building it into your system so that when changes happen, and if they happen, you're able to address them head on. I think that's it's very clearly a value add with what that you do at Kempower. And of course, you're going to adapt your product line for busier stations and more use by more EVs on the road with, simultaneous charging and all that. But also, it's not just the capabilities of the hardware that you're using, but also the ramping up production and the number of hardware of stations, chargers satellites that you're putting in the ground. So can you share some insights into how Kempower's services and products are designed to scale alongside the increasing adoption of EVs and drivers on the road needing to use your stations and your hardware?
Yeah, absolutely. The first couple of things that come to mind are, one, our software is a fantastic product that, probably doesn't get the accolades that it deserves, given, the hardware usually shines through. But the ability of our software to remain connected to the charging fleet and provide real-time diagnostics and grow with the client's charging fleet or charger fleet as well is super important to us. And so, the ability for the monitoring and just gathering that basic information that applies to the EV driver and keeps uptime and the charging experience at an optimal level. So the software that we have called ChargeEye for us internally is really built for that scalability that we're after. You can add more chargers to the fleet and even get down to creating power groups for groups of chargers within your fleet to further start to narrow down the utilization and needs of that group of chargers. So as your locations start to grow and your charging sites start to grow, ChargeEye is built to grow with you and really give you that visibility into your investment that you're looking for. So that's really one of the first things that comes to mind. The other is our, the manufacturing, right, and our ability to keep up with demand in that respect. So we have a operation here in Durham that we've stood up. We have continually hired throughout 2023 and now into 2024, and produced our first delivery late last year to our first client from Durham. So we're really proud of that, and really built our factory here and manufacturing facility, modeled it after what was done in Finland, and their success that they've had in being able to scale and really increase output with keeping an eye on quality with our power modules and the rest of the components that go inside. And so being able to take, what they've done there and that success and emulate it here is really what we're after. So, we will continue to grow this year with our personnel. We've made public promises as far as hiring goes that we will fulfill this year, and really have a great team that's ready in-house, from our suppliers to our employees that are ready to make that happen as the interest grows and our orders grow as well. So
incredible. Yeah. I mean, congratulations also on your, your progress in Durham. That's really exciting to really see the work unfold. And like you said, there's so many lessons learned that you can take from the business elsewhere and apply it here, and really be able to start with a solid footing and grow on that. So I think taking advantage of that is really a no-brainer. And you've spoken a bit already about how the design specifically is catered to scalability with Kempower, and you feel free to speak to that more. But also,
Sure.
I'd love to understand, you see the industry moving towards scalability in a way that is effective, or are there some things that we just clearly need to leave behind when it comes to scaling EV charging?
Well, man, I don't think we're quite there yet to where we could leave scalability behind, with the restrictions that we already have with our, the grid environment. We're constantly, or our partners are constantly looking to the grid for guidance, and oftentimes having to, apply for a certain amount of power for their chargers. Whether that power is granted or not is up to the utility. And so being able to scale and grow just simply around what the infrastructure needs are that we already have in place is really important, and to be able to find a solution now, but also have that eye toward the future of what maybe the growth needs are for that particular site or that particular customer. So, it's very important to us, from the start. And that's why I say I don't really think we could leave it behind just yet, because, we're still kind of wading through this, through the fog, so to speak, at a 6 or 7%, EV adoption rate right now. We know where we want the numbers to go, but how quickly we get there is, yeah, exactly. How quickly we get there is kind of yet to be seen, just based on other, influences that are, at home and abroad around our industry. So I don't think we can leave it behind yet. And this is something that is a core belief of Kempower, that, you can find a solution now, but also plan for the future, future-proof your design, and really be set, for the next decade or so with your products.
The thing I would like to see people leave behind is an idea that a DC fast chargers is a commodity. I mean, I think that's where the horror stories come from. I mean, when you see the pictures of the charger with the grass going around it and it hadn't worked in a year, I think a lot of that's done because somebody said, I got to put one here. What's the cheapest one I can find? And hadn't thought through the whole strategy, or even it's almost like a bad charger is worse than no charger, because it gives the industry such a black eye. I mean, when people say, well, there's one there, but it never works, that spreads to everybody. So I think it's just a decision that has to have a little thought behind it. And I understand as being, I used to work for a company that made commercial vehicles, and we've done diesel engines for years and years, and that becomes your mindset. And it's the same with cars. And there's a way to do things with EV that's a little different than with ICE engines. And so I think it's just kind of I want to leave behind that. And so I'll throw one out there, and it's the same as there does need to be some planning and some conscious thought about what we want to do here in this location, and some ideas around. I have some demands about uptime and reliability that I want and that my customers deserve. So that's kind of what I would like to see left behind.
I totally agree. I mean, I've seen some chargers that have literal cobwebs on them, and I'm like, why was this even put in? No one's using it.
Yep.
Does it work? Obviously. Yeah. I think it's kind of interesting to think, how far ahead can we think? How far ahead should we be thinking? And the strategy around that. I know it's still evolving, but future proofing for things that we know and things that we've seen, just like we said before, lessons learned is really key here. And, you're growing, you have the global footprint, but I've also would love to know kind of the scale of that, if, what you can share about the quantity of your footprint, and then also maybe your goals on how Kempower you are planning to grow.
Sure. We're a leader in the Nordics, and then you can kind of go in different European countries and have different shares there. We're very, very good in the UK, and maybe a little less dominant in Central Europe, but certainly starting in North America. I think the good news is, so I've been here since May. I've gotten to go to Finland 3 times. I've never been to the Nordics in my life, and on every visit, the plant's been different. And what I think Kempower is really good at is jogging around. Hey, we've got a demand for this product. Let's change the product line a little bit, while still keeping the lead times reasonable and the turnaround times reasonable. And so we did just open another facility in Lahti in Finland. So now there's 2 manufacturing facilities there to help meet that European demand. And then I think if you come visit us and see our setup now, we're a nice rectangular building that if we need to change a product line, we can change it. We have an ancillary building that we're using, for training and for spare part storage right now, but we could go right over there and replicate our setup if we wanted to do one line here and one line there, if the volumes demanded that. We've thought about that in advance. And I think if you can just watch, I'll just give you a little example of this. And I come from a manufacturing environment, and I walked in the door in Kempower in May. We still hadn't got our certificate of occupancy in the building that we were going to manufacture in until June. And everybody told me we were going to be building product by the end of the year. And I smiled and nodded and went home and told my wife, no way, there's no way that'll happen. And then sure enough, we delivered our first product before the end of the year. So it's been a heck of an achievement, and one that, we've just really been able to copy and paste that, kind of finished manufacturing footprint and the way we do things and the systems we use. And I think we can replicate that as needed to meet demand. So it's something I think that we're pretty good at, and I'm confident in our ability to meet the market demand.
Yeah, it really shows the emphasis on, scalability is tied into being able to replicate and also adapt and have your system set up where they can fit in, whether it's a new product line or a new idea even, and really have that come in and be able to have an impact on a short timeline is very impressive. And as your work grows, of course, y'all seem like you're a part of a great team and great team members, and you're going to keep growing your team. So what kind of, plans you have for workforce, maybe workforce training, or even kind of from an industry perspective? I know that there's a lot more, EV recruitment in general for this space. So what have you seen in terms of workforce training and recruiting for this industry?
Yeah, you bring up a really good point there, Francie. As far as the market, itself, and and who we're recruiting and seeing that has some interest here. So there's a market development, workforce development aspect to this, but also an internal workforce development aspect as well. So I'll start internally, and the sharing of culture amongst our new hires with our Finnish parents has been amazing. And so that's the cultural aspect is something that's very important to the Kempower company, and really telling the story of, where we were born from, and also where we're going at the same time. And so we do some pretty extensive training internally. Obviously, we have a onboarding that we do here in the Durham location, and then there are breakout groups of which you would get more intensive training for your particular position, whether you're on the production line or part of our safety team. The other aspect of this internal training is that we have been sending our employees to a boot camp in Finland, where they really get a truly immersive experience culturally, and just, again, with our technology and our mission. And so for the most part, a lot of our technical based employees will go there and have some extended training on the production line with our service team. And our product management team, just to really lay the land and give people a good holistic view of our product offering and where we want to be. And so that experience has been amazing. Like Jed mentioned, he's had opportunity now to visit a few times. I myself have as well, and it's really something that does a great job in helping us learn about the culture and the company at which we're working for now, and really knocking down that wall of disconnection between Kempower Inc. here in Durham and Kempower OYJ, who started there in Finland. So there's that aspect to it, where we really embrace the employees and train them here in Kempower in several different ways, both technical and non. And then, but we also have this kind of market aspect that we're looking at as well. And my background is in solar and batteries, but also in construction and implementation. And for years, we've been talking about how the trade jobs have been decreasing, and how important it is to provide those educational opportunities for people that are interested, and really teaching them that you can make a career out of some of these trades. And so maybe not necessarily in Kempower's world, because we're not necessarily implementers of our own product. We rely on partners to do so. But the guys in the field, the electricians, the folks operating the machinery that's required to do this work, to make the connections, to the engineers to understand electrically and physically what needs to happen to the site. We really need to do our part in bringing up the education, around those industries, so we can continue to support our partners in the field, so they can continue to get good workers and good help on their side. So to that respect, Kempower has participated in some learning opportunities last year at several community colleges in Eastern North Carolina. So I personally did some workforce development training out there with some group of high school graduates that were moving into community college classes and taking an EV specific track. And so it was a great opportunity for Kempower to participate in North Carolina's community college system and provide some of that, base level learning around EVs, EV charging. But we also are pursuing relationships with other community college channels here in North Carolina to really offer what we can as far as expertise and training, and to really, hopefully get some interest around, what this industry means and what it's doing, and really putting out there, what this future forward idea, and relating that to job security and things of pay, obviously, and wage rates. And so all the things that are important to the worker, we want to put that on display, and really show the possibilities of what's out there. So we're trying to attack it on a couple of different levels, and staying involved here, locally in the Triangle area with our community colleges, and really looking out to the network of community colleges here in North Carolina and participating there. So we've done a lot with recruitment drives at local universities here, as well as obviously some of that participation that I alluded to earlier.
Yeah, incredible initiatives. I've seen some companies in this space that kind of miss the mark on really just getting everyone, no matter what department you're in, immersed at least at some point in the EV charging experience, whatever it is, or even just the holistic nature of what you're doing at the company. It's so important that everyone starts out with some sort of base level of shared knowledge of what the goals of different teams are, what different teams are doing. So I appreciate those internal, but also external initiatives because, yeah, I think in this space, it's important to show people that how many opportunities there are to get involved, whether it's marketing or engineering. There's so many opportunities
Absolutely.
on the board to get involved in this industry, and it's exciting too. So I really enjoyed hearing about all that. Thank you. And to kind of go full picture again, and especially in terms of how Kempower sees it and how you two see it, what do you think is the key to improving the EV charging experience from what we know it is today in the US, North America? I'd say, some other countries definitely have it going on a bit more than we do. Do you think it's more ports to prevent charging queues? Is it better interaction between utilities and charging providers or manufacturers or site hosts? Is it customer education? What do you think are the real things that we need to focus on?
I'd say yes. Everything you just said.
That's true. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All of the above.
We do say more plugs. I mean, we do believe that. And it's not everywhere yet, but there's nothing worse than a line. I mean, people don't like them. It's not what you're used to. And so I do think more plugs is important. But you hit everything, really. Actually, you want to take the other ones. I mean, you really think all those things are super important.
Absolutely. Customer education being, a key component there as well. And so, please look out for our webinars. We love to do, customer education as far as that goes, which is a huge component. But just want to touch on the more ports thing as well. And, I liken it to, being in a traffic jam and taking the back road just to get on the road again, and so maybe Waze or Google is telling you that if you stay in the traffic jam, you'll get there, in 12 minutes. If I take the back roads, maybe I'll get there in 14, but at least I'm driving. Right. And so that to me, I'm that type of person that to me feels a little bit better. And so the same sort of thing, you can kind of relate that to charging as well. And so more ports would mean more opportunities to charge and less people waiting in line. And so, whether, car A and car B are both getting 100 kilowatts apiece, or would they actually really mind splitting that energy directed to a third car? Are they going to notice the 90 seconds to maybe 3 minutes that longer that they would be there in order to reach 80% or higher? Probably not, and so and that's kind of our aspect or kind of view of this, is that more ports are better because it'll keep people charging. And obviously power is important too. You don't want to be there any longer than you have to be. But for the most part, when we see these these charging speeds and charging rates, we're talking about maybe a 5 or a 10-minute boost, right? We're not talking about a 350 kilowatt hypercharge for a 30-minute long session. That's just not how it works. Your charging curve isn't linear. And so, if you can keep a more efficient charge and a flatter line throughout more ports, you're going to have a better experience all the way around for more people. And so is that one EV driver going to notice, a minute or two longer at the stall? Are probably not, and in some instances, of course, and that's okay. But at the same time, we have the ability when it comes to something like that, and there is a reduced speed, we have the ability to tell the customer why, so they're not also sitting there wondering why, which goes back to the education piece. So as Jed said, and you said first, it's kind of all of the above. But at Kempower, we really, really believe that the more ports are the answer, which makes our product a really great solution, for scalability reasons and availability reasons.
And I don't know if it's just our job. I think it's everybody's job. But at some point in time, I think we've lost just how needed it is to drive an EV. I mean, we get into sustainability arguments, and I see my social media feed with, I remember last year when they had the traffic jam in Virginia, and everybody was, well, what would you do if you were there in an EV? I guess I would wait the same amount of time I was there if I was in an internal combustion engine car. I mean, they don't use any energy when they're not running. I mean, I just think that people get sideways on a lot of arguments. And, I just think about, driving my EV to work, and it's costing me 2 cents a mile to do it. And I've done no maintenance on it 2 years. And it's fun to drive. And I think that if you talk to most every EV owner, I know there's a few that have had a problem or whatever, but I mean, 95% of the people that drive them love them and say they wouldn't go back. And somehow the industry's got to get that message out there and get a little help from our friends in the media and everywhere else to say, hey, let's talk a little bit about what's great about these things. And for me personally, I love my car. And I think that most people that have them do.
What do you drive, Jed?
I have a Mustang Mach-E, and it's been
nice.
flawless. It's been
perfect.
flawless.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle says that a lot too. He's like, yeah, sure, it could be better for the environment, but I just think it's a cool car. I mean, the performance and efficiency, and of course the cost savings too. There's a lot of reasons to go electric, and I think it's going to be more and more realized the more people, give themselves a chance to learn about it, or even just sit in one. I think that really makes the difference. And then, of course, if more people are interested, we're going to need some more Kempower.
Need some more chargers, yeah.
Exactly.
Some more ports.
Thank you. Some more ports. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed touching on this topic of scalability with you both. And, it's truly not as simple as it seems. Just scale it. There's a lot of things involved from top to bottom: hardware, software, education, communication, planning, future-proofing, partnerships. It's always a collaborative and complex effort. So I appreciate you giving me some insight there into how Kempower is going about scalability and really prioritizing it, and not only into your philosophies and your mission, but your design and your work and your workforce as well. So thank you for sharing how this pillar is built into your work. And Ashley, you mentioned the trainings or the I can't remember, the webinars that you have. And so where can people find those?
So we're very active on LinkedIn. I think that's probably the best place for people to find us. We love to interact those, so you can find us on a few other social platforms as well. LinkedIn's great. We make all our announcements there. You can also find our website at kempower.com. There is a webinar section there where people can keep up with that also. So please, we invite all of you to interact and find some time to join one of those webinars with us.
Definitely. Go check those out. I'll also check those out. And then, of course, in our comment section, let us know what you think about scalability, y'all, and Kempower, and if you have any questions, and we will get to them. And I want to mention, of course, that if this is your first episode hearing about Kempower on the Out of Spec podcast, we will have, or I have already put up, other podcasts on your product line, reliability, green tech, climate, and regulation. So definitely either stay tuned or go check them out. They will be linked in the description, as well as anything relevant that we mentioned today. And thank you again, both of you. This has been really interesting to speak with you, and I appreciate your time and energy. And I appreciate our audience for plugging in with us today for some more electric topics. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you next time on the next Out of Spec podcast episode. Bye-bye.